So you start your show, it gets about 2 downloads. One of them is you and the other one is probably your mum, and that is cool too. But if you want to grow your show for real, just posting about it on your Instagram account is probably not going to help you to grow your show as you might think it would. So today, I want to talk about one of the best ways for you to attract new listeners to you. You're listening to Podcasting for Experts, with honest conversations about using podcasting as a tool to grow your reach, increase your audience, make a positive impact on the world, and most importantly, to get paid for your efforts. I'm your host, Jess, and we are Pristine Podcasts. Let's talk podcasting. Hey, and welcome back to Season 3, Episode 5. I'm Jess, co-founder at Pristine Podcasts, and in today's episode, I want to talk about the best way to grow your podcast for real. So, when you start your own podcast, it is super easy to just exist in your own bubble, right? You plan the episode, you record the episode, you share the episode, and you repeat. And then you do that 20 times, and then you figure out that you still haven't attracted a pile of new people to your show like you thought you would. Now, why is that? So when you're starting a new show, most of you are going to be in one of two positions. Either you have an existing audience elsewhere that you're trying to bring over to your show. So you make a big launch and you tell them 150 times and there's going to be a giveaway and all that good stuff. And about 1/3 of people will follow you to your podcast and, well, the rest, they don't. And then you have the same download numbers week on week with maybe a very slight increase. Or you don't have an audience at all, so you start your show, it gets about 2 downloads, one of them is you and the other one is probably your mum, and that is cool too. But if you want to grow your show for real, just posting about it on your Instagram account with your 135 followers or sharing it with your Facebook friends from high school is probably not going to help you to grow your show as you might think it would. So today, I want to talk about one of the best ways for you to attract new listeners to you. And that method is, drumroll please, podcasting. But I'm not talking about your show. I am talking about leveraging other people's shows. We're social animals. We're humans. We connect to other humans, and that happens in conversation and when you're telling stories. And telling stories on your show is great, but if no one's listening to it just yet, then go and tell stories on other people's shows. And the shows that you're picking, they don't always have to be 100% related to the topic of your show. Those shows, they can be about other things too that your ideal listener might also be interested in, like shared passions that you might have outside of your work. Now, how do you pick the right podcast to be a guest on? When it comes to picking the right podcast, you want to have a very clear picture on your ideal listener. So who are the people who are listening to your show? Or if there isn't really very many yet, who should be listening to your show because you provide amazing value to them? Are they women or are they men? Are they working or are they stay-at-home parents? Are they interested in sports, health, or fitness? Do they love cooking, etc.? So what are the things that kind of unite your audience? So what you want to look for is you want to find other podcasts who have the same audience, but they do not directly compete with you. So I talk about podcasts, for example. So when I go onto other people's podcasts, I want to talk to people who maybe write copy, who do social media for clients, or who design graphics or whatever else, but they do not offer podcasting services that we offer within our business. And those are the very exact guests that I will also have on my show too. The next thing, once you have identified the kind of people whose podcast you might want to try to get onto, is the size of the show. So do not waste your time trying to submit pitches to the top shows in whatever category it is that you're going to be targeting podcasts in. It's really not going to work. I know from my clients that it doesn't even work for them, and they are at the same level in business to the person whose show they're trying to get onto. So it's like Gary Vee trying to get onto Pat Flynn's podcast kind of thing. So if you're at that level, it is going to be really, really, really hard to try and get onto someone's show. And it's probably going to take personal contact with the person that has the show and a pretty insane thing that you can be sharing with them for them to have you as a guest on the show. So when you're looking for shows to be a guest on early on, focus on shows that are within your reach, Focus on people who are already within your network. Ask your network if they can introduce you to any of their podcaster friends. Make new connections and then check if it's an option to get on their show. It could be very much that initially you're getting 5 downloads per episode and you're going to go on a podcast that gets 20 downloads per episode. The thing is, if you do 100 podcast interviews and each one of those podcast interviews gets 20 downloads, those numbers add up very, very, very quickly. And it can still really be worth your time to go onto shows, even if they're smaller, particularly if you can be a guest on one of the handful of first episodes. Because if I find a new podcast and they're already at episode 80, the thing that I do is to go back to episode 1 and start again from the beginning. And if you are one of the first 5 podcast guests, they're most certainly going to listen to your episode before they get bored of binge listening. So it can really be worthwhile to get onto new podcasts if you think that that person has a chance to make it big at some point, if you're going to be one of the first 5 or 10 people who are going to be on the show. Being a guest on other people's podcast brings you quite a few benefits. It gives you authority because that person trusted you enough to have you speak to their audience. It also gives you a backlink from that person's website back to your website. And you may also end up with quite a few of their followers being interested in you, whether it is based on what you talked about or whether it is based on your personal story and that they feel a connection with you. I know that it is a lot of work to find suitable shows, to reach out to them, and then to be a guest on the show itself. All of that takes time. But this is a very, very, very solid long-term strategy for you to make sure that you're getting in new ears all the time. A little bit later on in this season, actually to be specific, it's going to be season 3, episode 8. I will be talking to Nicolene and we will be talking all about how you can actually leverage the guest experiences that you've had on other people's shows, whether you've done guest training for them or you've done an interview with them or even written content. How can you leverage that so that you get the most impact for your business out of it? So if you want to know more about this topic, definitely come back for season 3, episode 8. Alrighty, that's it from me for this episode. If you have any follow-up questions or some additional tips to share, then I'd love to welcome you in our Facebook group where we can continue the conversation. If you enjoyed the show, our entire team would be endlessly grateful if you leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. As always, I hope you have an amazing day and we will see you for the next one. That's it for this episode. Thank you so much for listening. We really appreciate you. If you are looking for a community where you can brainstorm with like-minded podcasters and business owners, then don't forget to check out our Facebook group. You can find it at pristinepodcast.com/group. The link is also in the show notes.